Welcome to the BMAX Sports Podcast.
Angel, we got 30 minutes for the rest of our lives. 30 minutes for the rest of our lives.
Make sure to subscribe on all platforms.
Let's be great. Let's be great.
Hope you enjoy the show.
All right, folks, welcome back to another episode of Tate and Josh in the Morning. We have a very special and well-educated guest on the show today. His name's Greg Cooler. He was on the front lines fighting this COVID disease and knows way more than you Facebook doctors think you know. So let's get started.
All right.
Tell us a little bit about what you did. You went to New York, right?
Well, yes, I went to basically the tri-state area. I was stationed mainly in New Jersey, but it's literally across the river from New York City. So we went over there a lot, kind of saw what was going on over there too. And we were based at the largest hospital in New Jersey called University. Rutgers University actually participates the residency program in this hospital. So that's kind of what where I was at, and it was what we would call the front lines. It was a war zone. And it's cliche. A lot of people, you know, they hear, oh, it's a war zone. It was absolutely a war zone. We had people in the hallways with COVID 2 foot from us, and they're stacking bodies in the back of semi-trucks. That sounds pretty war zone to me.
It does.
And to see it firsthand like that, it's kind of a eye-opener to what COVID really can do to a community.
Do you think there's going to be a lot of people kind of moving out of the New York area because of this? Because, I mean, the main reason, you look at Lawrence County, we've got roughly 52,000 people have had one COVID death. Mm-hmm. And the main reason that we've only had that as many cases we had, I mean, we're one of the leaders in the state of Georgia, I believe, for the amount of COVID cases. But I think it's just because we're so rural and spread out that it hasn't been as bad as those places. So do you think there's going to be a lot of people moving out of areas like that?
I don't see anybody gonna move because of it. They got kind of hit before they really realized what was going on. That was the first area in general that caused that COVID hit, and they didn't know it was there until it was too late. And it's such a congested area, I mean, you're not gonna be able to fix that. It is a lot less it's a lot less densely populated in this town here that we live in, so you're not going to catch it as much. 52,000 people aren't going to catch it. The one county I was in, they had more deaths than the whole state of Georgia. I mean, that's just the one county I was in New Jersey.
That's crazy. Because
of how close it was, and the socioeconomic status of most of the population in that particular county is very, very low.
Yeah. And a lot of them, they're so poor, whatever, they take a lot of mass transit.
Mass transits.
That's how a lot of it probably spread.
20, 30 people living in one small duplex house on top of one another. And that's kind of the main reason. But had they known it was there, they'd have been able to enact measures a lot quicker. But you're not going to get it like that here. You're going to see the spikes, and that's because more people are going out. Yeah, I was out last night, out and about, and went to several places, and people are out. They're out and they're mingling and they're getting up close, and it's gonna spread. I mean, that's just the nature of COVID. That's what it does.
Well, I guess you're now we're kind of seeing the second wave, and as far as I know, it hasn't been as deadly as the first. What's the correlation there? Is it a different strand? Are we coming because there's been more people getting out, and because we've had a little bit more freedom in this? They haven't really locked down a lot of places. I mean, places like California is going back into lockdown, I assume. But do you think it's just because we're getting out there and people are getting immune, or do you think it's just a different type of coronavirus that we're seeing now?
Well, I do know that there are, for last check, 3 strains of coronavirus has mutated twice. So you have the original and 2 more strains out there. And I just, what I think about the second wave and it's spiking here, you know, Fairview's got probably 30 beds filled with COVID patients, and you know they're doing okay, I guess, from what I understand. It's the population of people that are getting it. The people that went out and all hung out when the doors opened back up, younger crowd.
Right.
You know, they're the yous and the me's, and we're going out there, and we fare pretty well against COVID. And it doesn't feel good. I personally had COVID when I was in New Jersey. It doesn't feel good at all. You're going to feel pretty bad. It's worse than a flu. It's not flu-like almost at all. It's way worse. I can't really describe it, how I felt, but it was pretty bad. I couldn't get out of bed for 4 days. But we get over it. Yeah. We're not going to need to be hospitalized. It's not going to affect our oxygen levels and things of that nature.
Do you think that the nature of which the government has handled this situation has been, with like the complete lockdown, has been kind of ridiculous? Just because of the way that we see who would have, I mean, and I understand there's going to be some people who are younger that they have different body types, they have different blood types. It's going to affect them differently.
Right. But
people that are healthy, that are, I mean, it's not really going to affect. Do you think that we should be, it'd be wise for us to be getting out there and kind of creating this immune system, and whenever they do come up with something to either vaccinate people who have it or do some kind of treatment, that they could use some kind of like blood cells or some kind of antibodies from us, people who've just been out. Because I mean, I've personally, this has not changed my lifestyle whatsoever. Like I have not stopped this entire time. And some people are going, "Oh, you fucking moron! You're out here spreading it." I haven't got it yet. I know
that you know of.
I know of a family that were the most safe family. I mean, they didn't go out for 2 months. They, I mean, didn't go to nobody's house, didn't go see close friends, nothing. I mean, they were locked down. And then the second wave comes and they get it. Their whole entire family got it. And so, and obviously they could have a whole different blood type, whatever, however that deal is. But I think at some point we got to realize, like, we can't just, every time something comes around, we can't just hide from it. Like, that's not going to happen.
Yeah, where we're at right now, as far as, was it the wrong move to lock it down to begin with? I don't believe it was the wrong move. I just don't think it was done, I guess, properly, just because of the makeup of the country. We're not going to be able to get everybody on the same page on something like that. It's just not going to happen.
And at least do the lockdown, if you had to do a lockdown, at least do it until you got a handle or kind of a better idea of what this is. Whenever you find out, okay, hey, it doesn't affect young people that much. It doesn't affect people that don't have pre-existing conditions. And this is where me and you are probably not going to agree, because I start going into this little rabbit hole of that. I 100% agree that coronavirus is a real thing. Like, I mean, I know people who's got it. I've had close friends that's got it. You've had it. My uncle got it. There's a bunch of stuff that proves that it's a real thing. The whole I go down to is I think the death toll is completely inflated. Like, I don't think that's real. It says that we've had 142,000 deaths. I don't believe that. Secondly, I think that the media is trying to use this to figure out what they can and cannot get away with. And that's why when I seen that you commented on there and that you and Tate were talking back and forth about y'all getting on, that's kind of what I wanted to talk to you about, is how much of this do you think is legit, or do you think the death tolls are legit? I mean, how much is this is like on the par?
The death tolls in and of itself, I mean, a lot of people can say they could be inflated. You know, if somebody came in and say they died of the flu, but they were COVID positive as well, they put it down as death COVID. I don't think there's a lot of cooking the books when it comes down to somebody comes and had a car wreck and we tested for COVID, and then they died of their car wreck injuries. That a COVID.
There's been a sitting U.S. senator that came out and said that's what they were doing.
Yeah, and it may, but I don't think there's a lot of that going on. So some of those numbers may be inflated a little. However, like I said, where I was in New Jersey, 10 semi-trucks in the back, refrigerated trucks.
Yeah.
We had the United States Army forklifting bodies into these trucks. over and over and over. The area that I was in hard hit, and this was just my hospital. That was that way at every hospital in New York, in New Jersey. So it was a large amount of deaths in a short amount of time. So the numbers, 142,000, I can be on board with that. If there were hospitals cooking the books, because they were getting paid for the COVID deaths. Each hospital was getting paid for COVID related deaths with the federal, I guess, federal money. So some hospitals may have done that. One I was at, I don't believe we did.
Well, and I think there's certain situations, because obviously the place that you had it was New York and New Jersey was like ground zero basically for COVID-19, so they didn't have to. Like, I mean, number one, you're getting that money in the first place. Number two, you have that many beds that are filled up.
Right.
But places like Lawrence County that is kind of smaller, they don't have as big as a budget. That's where I think this falls into play. That somebody comes in, has a heart attack, also tests positive for COVID-19. I do believe that there's been inflated numbers. That's just me.
COVID in and of itself can cause heart attacks and cause blood clots, and that's where we come down to the certain blood type situation. People, some people that have certain blood types are more prone to what's called hypercoagulopathy, which means their blood coagulates and clots up a lot easier because of COVID, and it can throw a clot, cause a heart attack, cause a stroke. So a person dies of a heart attack, stroke, they had COVID. It's possible that is what the cause that killed them. Now, did they die of the respiratory COVID? No, they didn't. Could they have died from a heart attack caused by a blood clot? Yes, and you wouldn't know that till the autopsy.
Yeah.
So a hospital's not going to not report that number until an autopsy is done, because autopsies can take weeks and weeks and weeks. So they go ahead and report the number because of the hypercoagulopathy that COVID can cause. But if it wasn't a blood clot, yes, that's a false number. If it was a plaque buildup and the person just had a heart attack, yes, that is probably not what killed them. Was COVID. But
have you seen the news where they've come out and been talking about those 3 labs in Florida that got busted?
Yeah, well, it was. I saw the labs, and from what I understand on that, where they were only reporting positive cases, so therefore they had 100% positivity rate. Those labs thought that's all they were supposed to do, and if you look into it, that's kind of where it started at the beginning. Was we just want to know the how many positives you're getting out of each lab. We don't really care about the negatives. And then they said we want to know about the negatives. Well, the labs either didn't get the memo. That's what they're saying. They said they didn't get the memo. They didn't get the mandate, even though the governor says that he came on TV with a mandate saying they want to know both positives and negatives. So that sounds just like miscommunication. The right hand not knowing what the left hand's doing.
And there's a lot of people talking about, like, I honestly don't think they were doing it in a nefarious way. Mm-hmm. The only bad actors that I see in this entire situation is, number one, governors who want to overreach, because there has. I mean, you look at Governor Newsom in California; it's been an entire lockdown. I mean, you can't do nothing by penalty of the law. Like, you will get in trouble for walking out in the streets without a mask. And then I think the news media has taken it farther than everybody else. Mm-hmm. And I think that, like I said earlier, they're using this just to see how far their reach can get. I don't think they're concerned about people dying. I don't think they're concerned about people's sicknesses. I wholeheartedly believe that they're using this just to see how far they can, what their realm is and how they can manipulate the American people.
Democratically run states and Republican run states are going to be two completely different ways of looking at things. You can see Georgia, the way that's done. Wear a mask, don't wear a mask, just try to be respectful, everybody, keep your social distance, we're going to open back up. And then your Democrat run states, New York, New Jersey, I believe, California, they're going to have a lot more control over the people and what they can do. That's just what Democrats and Republicans do. Republicans give power to the local governments. Democrats want total control from the highest level. Mm-hmm. That's how politics works. So they're going to sit there and put their plans into place. They're really, I mean, in my opinion, I don't know where to fall on this, because
you've seen what's
I can be
happened.
mixed. I've seen what happened.
Yeah.
And my personal opinion, there's 2 ways to kill this, and there will be 3. There's 2 ways to completely end it, and there will be 3 at some point. First way, you do what California does. You have a mandatory lockdown, martial law state, nobody out on the streets. New Zealand did it this way. Nobody's out on the streets. You stay at home for a month. Government pays you 80% of your wage. They pay businesses 80% of their monthly money. 30 days. Nobody leaves their house. Shopping centers allow maybe 10 people in one at a time, get their food for the week, and then they come home. You'll kill it. You'll stop it. That's 2 cycles of COVID, 2 14-day cycles, done. New Zealand did it, 0 cases now, and they're completely fine. America's too big for that. We have too opinionated. We have too many people that think too many different ways. Yeah. It's never going to work without starting a civil war. 330
million people.
Yeah.
How are you going to let 10 people in a Walmart?
Yeah, you will start a riot and a whole civil war on something like that. Not going to happen. Other way is we really, really, really protect and make a point. If you're an immunocompromised person, you should be on mandatory lockdown. If you are over the age of 65 and are prone to illness, you should mandatorily lock yourself down. Nursing homes, complete lockdown, and then everybody else just gets out. I think
a lot of that stuff is common sense, though. I mean,
yep.
if I'm 70 years old right now, I'm going to be cautious just because, I mean, you've seen what it does. But what does not make sense to me is by statistics, you can see that it does not affect young people. So why are we mandating that young people cannot do anything? Because we think about 100 years ago, flu killed everybody.
Yeah.
150 years ago, flu killed everybody.
It's the young people. It's not us getting it that's the problem. It's who we get it to.
Yeah,
right. That's what I was going to say.
The biggest thing is, us getting it's not the issue. The masks that we wear aren't going to protect everybody from getting the virus, but it's going to help protect other people. The mask isn't for us to be protected. The mask is to protect others. It's who we give it to. We're not going to die, but Nanamite. Or
that's what I was going to say.
But that's where I go back to the same thing. If you know that you are 65 or older and you are successful, get somebody who you know, and I know there's not a lot there's some people who have no family, but I'm 100% sure if you got on Facebook or got anywhere, you on social media and say, hey, I'm older, I'm afraid to go out because I do have a compromised immune system. Can somebody help? I guarantee you there will be probably hundreds of people commenting on there, hey, I can bring it. I'll make sure I wear my mask. I'll clean myself after I get out of there.
And that to me is kind of where at the national level of government, they could have created something. Yeah. A hotline. Call the hotline. Let us know if you need assistance. And then you could have had FEMA doing something like that where they can bring them the food. Meals on Wheels type of situation. Come by there, make sure there was anything they needed in a very clean manner. And everybody else could have just went and got. Because like I said, herd immunity. You get out there. New York's herd immunity is 78% right now. Unheard of numbers. Italy's was 5%. New York's 78% herd immunity because of how quickly it spread and how on top of each other they are.
Well, and Italy also has one of the world's oldest populations also.
Yeah.
So.
But they didn't get the immunity like New York did just because everybody was out there. So you can build immunity now. The newest numbers are immunity's lasting 3 months. That came out last week. That's the numbers I've been looking for since I got it. How long am I protected? And so medical professionals I've personally talked to that I know, doctors, nurse practitioners have told me they're seeing patients that had it in March, tested positive, then they tested negative, so they could go back to work. They are now back with symptoms testing positive. 3 months. So the immunity lasts about 3 months, and then they came out with a national study saying the same thing. So either we all get it, and that's how you stop it, because if not, it's just going to keep rolling. The snowball's never going to stop because people that are staying in are going to get it. People who get immunity is going to run out. They're going to get reinfected. It's never going to end until the vaccine, which is the third way to do it. The vaccine. But when the vaccine comes out, to me, that's endgame for Corona. If you don't get the vaccine, it's on you.
Yeah.
It's on you, and if you go out and you die of coronavirus, sorry, there was something there to stop.
I think it definitely needs to be a personal choice, though.
Yeah, it's a personal.
Because
you can't mandate.
you start getting into some really shady gray
You're
areas.
not going to mandate. The government won't mandate people get it. Like I said, it's going to be a by choice thing.
Yeah.
So you can't force a medicine on somebody that doesn't want it.
Well, Tate was. We were kind of going over some notes before you got here, and I don't want to steal his thunder, but he's got a lot of some pretty good questions. So Tate, what do you got?
Okay, so you've already answered some of them just by you talking. One was, should we wear a mask? There's a lot of people, and me and Josh actually differ on this, that think we shouldn't wear a mask. I say we should, just like you said, it doesn't protect us. And that's what I tried to explain to one of my coworkers at work. I said it's not really statistically shown to protect you from getting it, but it protects the people around you if you have it from getting it. So that would be my first question to you. What's your position on the mask?
No, the demographic. I mean, and it's on Facebook, and you research that particular demographic. It's from CDC, and it kind of shows you. I say I have coronavirus. You do not. We both are talking without masks in close proximity. 90% chance you're going to get coronavirus. So you're wearing a mask. I'm not. We're talking in close proximity. 50% chance you're going to get it. Okay. I'm wearing a mask with coronavirus. You're not. We're talking drops down to 5% chance that you'll get it.
See, and that's what...
Both of us are wearing masks, close proximity. I have, you don't, 1% chance that you're going to get it. So that's based on facts, and it's how the mask, they say the droplets are so small, and things like that. They're going to go through. The mask we're wearing not going to stop everything. It might stop 50%. 50% is a hell of a lot better than zero.
That's right.
So mine stops 50%. Yours stops 50% of coming in. It's 100%. Even though, you will catch it, because masks aren't going to fit properly. But it creates the cloud around you to 6 inches instead of 6 feet of transmissible particles.
Okay.
Because the mask catches it becomes moist. Particles go through, they immediately drop, or they cloud around you. They don't go the 6 foot. They don't turn into what they call I don't know, it's like a particle. I put something on Facebook basically kind of explains it, but the droplet surrounds it, protects it, keeps it alive, and allows it to travel further. So that's what masks are for. I'm going to, I try to practice what I preach a lot of times. I will wear a mask out in public. If I'm in a situation where I know I'm going to be 6 foot away from somebody, I may not wear one. If I'm outside, if it's an outside thing, I know I'm going to be 6 foot away from people, I may not wear one. But as far as going to Walmart, I can't guarantee I can stay away 6 feet from somebody, but I can't guarantee somebody's going to stay 6 feet away from me. So I don't want to give it to that person. I don't want to keep the train rolling. Masks, are they the answer? No, they're not going to stop coronavirus, but it's a speed bump. Hand washing, speed bump. Distancing, speed bump. So you put 3 major speed bumps in the way, and that's the goal is to kind of slow this thing down enough until the vaccine is ready.
Mm-hmm.
Then that's the flattening the curve. You can slow it down long enough to just get to where the vaccine is available. Then we've done our job. But
right.
They're projecting the deaths are going to be in the 275,000 range, is some of the projections I've heard because of what's going on. We have 1 death in Lawrence County, but we have 30 people in the ICU right now.
Right, and that's another thing I was going to get to, especially here with a hospital like Fairview that doesn't have the resources of like the bigger hospitals in Atlanta. People that contract it, people that have unforeseen complications can overcrowd the hospitals and could potentially keep somebody from getting a respirator if they need it, or a breathing machine, the help they need. And that's the only thing I worry about, really. I'm not worried about myself. I'm worried about my mother, who has some underlying health conditions, my little brother, who's got a weak immune system. And I don't want them to go to the hospital because they have regulations where you can't be in there with them. And I couldn't imagine, my mom being in the hospital and me not being able to go see her. I understand it, for sure, I do. But that's what I worry about is the overcrowding hospitals, especially somewhere like Lawrence County that's got this many people and only one hospital.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I had said it from the beginning when I got to New Jersey that if something like this happens in a town like where I'm from, the hospital's not going to be able to handle it. It's going to be, and we're all at capacity. Augusta's at capacity. Atlanta's getting up to capacity. Fairview's at capacity. It's hitting. I've already seen this.
Right.
I'm basically from the future when it comes down to what you're seeing because I've already been there. I'm 3 months ahead on what I'm seeing now. I've seen all this. I see how bad it gets. Luckily, we are a rural area. It's not going to be, 1,000 cases in Fairview. Not that they could handle that, but there's just not going to be. But when you've strained the hospital's ability and you've exhausted their resources, there's not much you can do. The hospital I was at, they were coming down to the ER, taking ventilators off of patients who were likely going to die to use them on a new patient that might have a chance.
Yeah,
and then the
that's
numbers, and they would call the family and they'd say, your family member's not going to make it. We're taking them off the ventilator. They couldn't be in there. I was the last person holding that person's hand.
That's terrible,
I was the
man.
last person they saw before they died.
Huh.
Family couldn't come in, so you had to tell these people over the phone, I'm sorry, your family member died. He went peacefully. Well, we made sure he was comfortable. And then the medical examiner will be giving you a call on what to do with the body. I mean, that's how it is. That's the end game. So, but yeah, they took ventilators because they were just out of ventilators.
Yeah.
And it's in a big state-run hospital that had the United States Army there helping them out with their resources, and they still ran out. So, there's only one death in Lawrence County, like I said, but there's 30 in the ICU. They may be, unnecessarily there, but I doubt it. I don't see the hospital. The administration there is pretty good. The doctors are really good. I don't see the hospital, putting somebody in the ICU that really probably could have done it at home. So those numbers may go up and may go up very quickly. You had people on ventilators 12 to 14 to 21 days before they died, where we came from. So we'll see about that number one, but that is still an exceptional number to have. 200. I don't know how many cases we have in Dublin now.
I don't know. I do not know.
Because there was 300 and
Something
like that last I checked, and that jumped up exponentially over a span of a week. With the one death, that's great news. It's only having one death, but like I said, it's just hitting now. It's just starting.
You've really seen the numbers.
Yeah.
I don't know the exact numbers right now, but
we're in
spiking. Like at the first wave, I knew personally nobody that had it. That's why I was kind of on the same plane as Josh, and I don't know if this stuff's real or if the media's just feeding us a bunch of crap. But now I've known at least 5 or 6 people just that I know personally that have had it and say it's pretty bad.
Yeah, it's pretty rough. But I mean, so we're in the beginning of the end game now. Because when I got to New Jersey, they had been getting their butts handed to them for 6 weeks at that point, and we saw it for a good 3 weeks of and then all of a sudden it just stopped. It just shut off like a water faucet. Nobody was coming in with COVID. Nobody was in our ER with COVID. And it kind of just looked around, and like busy ER. We might have had 20 patients, 30 patients all night. It just didn't. It was weird. It just stopped. But everybody had gotten it and it had cycled through, and it was a 2-month cycle. Everybody had got it, cycled through, and just like that, it stopped. And then you had a couple trickle in.
Right.
For the week 4 or 5, week 6, a couple trickle in. I got it week 5. I was there. Week 5 or 6, I was there. It was week 5 when I got it from somebody, and then I stayed my 2 weeks quarantine. Then I came back, and again it was still very slow. And then probably for the last 5 weeks of my contract, I saw maybe 2 total cases up there. So there's a cycle to it.
Right. And you're going back, right?
I'm going back for a month. to finish out the contract, purely for financial reasons. Is the only
Where-
reason I'd be going back.
Were you
This
scared
time.
when you first went up there? I would have been very nervous.
I wasn't. I was a little nervous, a little anxious. But when I walked into the emergency room, I knew we were kind of like lambs being led to slaughter. I was like, "There's no way we're not getting it
Right.
in this environment when you have that many people in the hallway on
Right.
breathing, on oxygen with COVID, and every room's full of COVID. You got 5, 6, 7 people on ventilators, or other people on BiPAP machines, which are just spreading it around in the air.
Yeah.
You got your breathing treatments going on, just aerosoling the virus. Like, we're gonna get it. There's no way.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have got it if my mask wouldn't have got knocked off by a patient. I was a little bit confused while I was in the room with them, but my mask got knocked off inadvertently. But when I walked out of that room, I was like, if I got it, this is when it happened.
Yeah.
And sure enough, I got it. About 4 days later, I had the symptoms.
Man, just leaving your family behind, being that far away from home, and
Yeah, it was pretty. It was
you
pretty,
know,
pretty
especially
tough.
on ground zero, man. That's
The
rough.
2009 the H1N1 swine flu.
Mhm.
When that broke out, why did we not see the same kind of reaction that we're seeing now?
Well, there was a pandemic, but H1N1 basically wasn't as sticky.
Yeah.
As the best way to call it. The fingerlings on the outside of the virus, it wasn't as sticky. So you're looking at maybe I don't know what the transmission rate of it was, but probably a 15% transmission rate versus this is an 80 to 90%
Yeah.
because it's sticky. It sticks to everything. It's very, very the shelf life, how long it was. So being able to get H1N1, you know, it would be like the regular flu. The regular flu isn't nearly as sticky as this.
But there were
20
still
times
60
easier.
million cases.
Yeah.
Almost 61 million cases.
Mhm.
That's probably because
Obviously, not
we
as
didn't
many
shut
people.
down like we.
Not as many people were hospitalized. I mean, because this is saying like 200,000 or roughly 300,000 hospitalizations.
And
My-
of course, the flu does act differently than
Yeah.
than a coronavirus as well.
My next question is: this going to be just something like in the future where, you know, once we do get this herd immunity, is this going to be where everybody's Corona season's coming about?
It's very possible.
Because I mean, so I've never had the flu. I've never had. I mean, I rarely
It
get
sucks.
sick, and they say it. I mean, they say it sucks.
It sucks.
But
Trust me.
from the people that I know that's actually had the coronavirus, and one of the guys that I know that had it was like a legit high risk, like what the CDC said was high risk, has diabetes, is overweight, and he said, I mean, it was basically just kind of, they said it was like a head cold, a really bad head cold that you got, and they didn't feel great for 2 days, and it was done with. My main concern for this, I mean, I understand people are like, well, you just don't think it's a real thing. You're not taking it seriously. No, I'm taking it seriously. I know that there is something out there. My main concern is government overreach. That's been my main concern this whole entire time. And I kind of wanted to get like a perspective from you that what you think is going to happen within the next maybe year and a half that now. Because there's people who legit have not left their homes since this began. And they're becoming conditioned to this way of life. And that's when we have to start sitting back and reevaluating what we're doing. Because when you have people who can accept this way of life and are okay with living it, I mean, who knows what they'll accept next.
Mm-hmm.
So, within the next 2 years, I mean, obviously, I know this is going to be just speculations. What do you think how do you think this is going to play out?
It very well could be a seasonal thing,
Yeah.
like the flu. You would hope that the vaccine that we come out with would give you immunity, but if it's only for 3 months, you know, you kill the virus out, then the season comes around again, you may have to get it once, twice, to make sure you kill it off again. What kind of mutations are going to happen? Is this something they're going to have to come up with? You know, because the flu virus is different. The flu vaccine is different every year. They start their studies early on in China to kind of figure out which strain gonna pop off, and then they're going to go ahead and build the vaccine, and then they ship it out, and then we get it around September, October. Very easily, the same thing could happen with coronavirus. Coronavirus spreads a lot quicker though, so that's kind of going to be the thing. As far as people, staying home, a way of life, I could see, banks are probably looking at like, we could probably just get rid of buildings and tellers altogether and just do, mobile banking.
Well, and that's another thing that really concerns me is that we're going to get to a place where the fear-mongering and the, hey, this is a good idea because it's going to keep people from getting sick, it's going to prevent us access to doing things ourselves. And whenever that happens and you have... Ronald Reagan once said the worst words you can hear come from somebody is, hey, I'm the government, I'm here to help.
Mm-hmm.
So, to me, there's just too many people now that are relying, okay, what is the government saying about this? What is the CDC saying about this? And I understand that's what the CDC does. But you've also, hell, you've been sitting here the past 4 months and they'll say one thing, okay, masks work, they stop it. Next month they come out, oh, masks don't work as well as we thought they did. And then they come out, and it's been with a bunch of different things where they're just flipping. And I know that they're still doing their research on this thing too. They don't know everything about it.
Mm-hmm.
But still at the same time, we have to be careful what we listen to. And that's one of the main reasons that I wanted to see you on here, is just so that we could ask these questions, we could get informed. Because number one, your experience with the virus, and then number two, I don't know what to believe anymore.
Mm-hmm. Nobody knows. It's called a novel coronavirus because nobody's ever seen it before. So what do you do? Well, how do you fix it? You don't know. We don't know. There's a lot of things that medicine doesn't know about this, and you learn on the fly. And so they come out and they say, do this, and they say, well, don't do that anymore, do this. And it's because they're learning as well as we are. You can always go back to history and viruses that are like closely related to it, and kind of maybe try to figure out what to do. But like I said, it's a new virus.
Well, that was an odd one to me too, is because of some people I know who work in the cattle industry, because of some people I know who are veterinarians and work in the animal field. Dogs can get coronavirus. There's vaccines for that. Cattle can get coronavirus. There's vaccines for that. They give, people run cattle through kill mills and stuff like that, and before they get to the kill mills, they go to places like one of my buddy's places of work, and they give them their shots, they give them all that stuff to make sure they are healthy and ready to go to the kill mill.
Mm-hmm.
You were talking about, let's kind of compare. Is there something that we could go back and look at those and understand that we can't inject ourselves with bovine medicine? Mm-hmm. It's not going to happen. But if it is truly the coronavirus, or at least a cousin to the coronavirus, is that something that we could start doing research on that?
This is definitely a coronavirus. It's a strain never before seen.
Yeah.
With how it attacks the human body, of how sticky it is and easily transmissible. There are coronaviruses that are very hard to get.
Yeah.
There are coronaviruses that are a lot easier to get. But they don't act the same. And a new one that you don't know anything about, it's not going to be the same as bovine coronavirus or canine coronavirus. It's not going to be the same thing. Now, you can look at those vaccines and try to figure out what we need to do as far as giving it.
That was my question, is because shouldn't have that been our first, other than figuring out, hey, how do we keep people from doing this? Shouldn't have been that our first step? Comparing other vaccines that we have for other strands of coronavirus.
Yeah, and I'm sure testing started immediately. You get there's already been a 30,000 person study on a initial vaccine.
Yeah.
We've already done 30,000 people with it, see how well it works before they release it out, which would be an amazing amount of time. So they have something that they're going off of, that they're using. It's just when it comes down to the red tape with being able to make it injectable to give to humans, with the CDC, all the regulations, the government testing, that's what takes the longest.
Yeah.
And they're kind of cutting a lot of this red tape out.
I know, since we're kind of getting to the anatomy of the actual virus, Tate had a question about the actual origin of.
Do you think? A lot of people on the internet think they know everything, and we all know this. Do you think this was made in a lab somewhere and released? Or do you think it's something that mutated or just came from an animal to a human transmission?
This is the part where I can kind of fall into the conspiracy theorist issues myself personally, even though science tells us and scientists say that this was definitely not lab created. I find this virus awfully designer.
Yeah, and that's what I've seen a bunch of like professionals say, that it's just the virus itself is absolutely perfect.
The fact that kids can get it and they're still out there playing ball like they never like nothing's happened. Most teenagers, young adults, they get a little sick, but they're fine. But the populations that can tax your Social Security, your Medicare, your Medicaid. The fact that African Americans are dying much higher rate, and then people with diabetes and stage renal disease, hypertension, the very expensive things to maintain through a Medicaid, Medicare program. Awful designer.
Yeah. Now that you say that, it does.
Awful designer.
And it does sound kind of fishy a little bit.
And then the low immunity, because most coronaviruses you get 6 months to 2 years of immunity, and then this one's only giving you 3 months. I don't know. I can't go fully on record saying I 100% think this was lab created, but it's awfully designer.
Has there been a kind of like anyone come to the conclusion of why blacks are more affected by the virus, or is it just kind of like an unknown still?
There are also African Americans are more prone to have the major comorbid factors: the hypertension, the diabetes, the end-stage renal disease, and that's where I was at. It could be based solely on socioeconomic status. In the communities I live in, they don't have access to the medicine to keep themselves. They eat the very high sugar, high carb. It's easier it's cheaper to eat fast food than it is to eat healthy, and I even find myself falling in that trap. But they tend to get wrapped up in those types of things, so therefore making them more susceptible to have the comorbid factors, the hypertension. And then, I can't get to the doctor to get my medicine, and I see a lot of medicine non-compliance within that particular subset of human because they just don't have access. And those communities can be extremely, extremely, poor. So, they want to take the medicines, but they can't because they can't afford it. Or this, that, or the other. So I think that there are more people in that community that have the comorbidity. But again, that falls into its awful designer.
Yeah.
Right.
I have, it's been, I 100% do not believe that the American, if it was a designer deal, I do not think the American government had anything to do with it. I mean, that's Republican, Democrat. I don't think it does. Do I think the media played off something that was mighty convenient for them? Yes.
Oh, yeah, it's an election year.
The reason that I think that I do believe that it was made in a lab, and the reason I think that it was released, or accidentally released, because there's been stories that in Wuhan, yes, there was a lab that was testing this exact strand of coronavirus, and that one of their people got exposed to it, and they just let him walk out. I don't believe that story. I believe if you are a legit research lab, and they know for a fact that you are exposed, they're going to immediately quarantine you in their facility. So this whole deal where they said, well, that he just accidentally just walked out and didn't know, or he was exposed. When you're working in a controlled environment, like there's the diseases that those people, these guys that they work with, they 100% know if they're exposed or not, because they've got some really bad stuff in those labs. In my opinion, I think that, because if you've forgotten, right before this came up, Hong Kong was having massive protests against the government. Just my theory, my opinion, could be wrong. I think that they unleashed it on their own people. That's just me. And it sounds very China-like of them to do that. Because their government does overstep every day. I mean, they are 100% involved in their people's lives. So I think they did it just to break up what was going on over there. Because they tried, they used police force, didn't work. They were going and literally gassing these people in the street, didn't work. So they said, okay, what are we going to do to prevent this from blowing up more than it already is? Because they were at the verge of basically a civil war, what was about to happen. And I think that it becoming a global pandemic was just Hong Kong's way of not caring about anything else, just what was going on in their country. And I mean, that's just my opinion. You can disagree. I mean, there's going to be a lot of people who disagree with me that say that it was just organic. I don't believe that.
It's like I said, I can't really, like I said, I can't really put myself in, on record and say that I think it's either one or the other because I don't know. But I find it very, very odd how it's working.
Have we ever seen any other disease or virus that is just perfectly designed like this one is? In your knowledge,
I don't know many that are as discriminate as this one is.
At least, as I say, at least in the time frame.
I mean, most diseases are very indiscriminate. They don't care. They're going to attach and they're going to make people sick. I've seen babies with the flu. I've seen 3, 4, 5, 6 year olds with the flu. They're sick.
Yeah,
you're real sick. Sometimes they have to get hospitalized. They're so sick. And this one, no. Now the older subset of 65 or older, geriatric subset, they are usually pretty susceptible no matter what it is. So you always have a higher death rate among that group when it comes down to flus and things like that. But it's as far as just even making people sick, it's very, very odd to me the way this works.
Greg, how long have you been a nurse?
I've been a nurse about 8 years.
8 years, okay.
Mm-hmm.
So somebody that's been in the profession this long, I have this debate with people all the time, and it's a little off topic of COVID, but I could see it being in the same category eventually, like when we get the vaccine. I get the flu shot every year. Mm-hmm. My doctor recommends it. I trust my doctor because I've seen him my whole life. A lot of people say they don't take the flu shot. They have their reasons. Do you recommend taking a flu shot every year?
I do. That's one thing when you're in the medical field that they really push on you. I take it. I don't ever feel sick the next day. My arm hurts.
Yeah.
It depends on what kind of year to year it hurts worse than some years, but it and I walk into rooms. I can walk into patient rooms without a mask on that I know have the flu, and I've never gotten the flu. Right. When I've taken the vaccine, and I've never felt sick. Some people do run low grade fevers a day or two after getting it. Not really sure why, because it's impossible to get the flu from the flu shot.
Yeah, some people say it's possible, but
it's an impossibility. It's a scientific impossibility to get the flu from the flu shot. But I take it every year, and hospitals really push it on their employees. You have to get the flu shot. You have to get the flu shot. If not, you have to wear a mask. Like we're doing now.
Right.
For every time you go into a patient's room or when you're at the desk. So I get it. I get it just so I don't have to wear the mask. That's the main reason I was getting it. But I've also never gotten the flu after having the flu shot. Now I know many of my coworkers that have.
I did 1 year. Mm-hmm. The very first year I got the flu shot. I got the flu, but they said they came out with the vaccine a little earlier than usual, and they got the strain wrong. Yeah, but ever since then, never had it.
Most years it's 60 to 70% successful,
right?
Because of the different strands. There was 1 year that was only like people were getting a shot, and only about 20 to 30% of people were covered because they completely missed.
Was that recently? Because
it was probably within the past 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, because I remember I got the flu shot in September, October, and then right at the beginning of the year when we got our new sick time at work, boom, got the damn flu, and I had to miss like 3 days.
Yeah, people.
But the flu sucks, man.
Yeah,
it
it
really does. And if COVID's worse than that, I want no parts
It's
of
pretty
it.
bad. Like I said, I started off with a cough, then it went into losing my taste and smell, then it went into I can't move for 4 days. Body hurt. Never ran a fever though, so my body hurt. Had no, I couldn't get the breath in. You know, I felt like I was not breathing properly. Like I couldn't get that good deep breath in, and that lasted for 4 days. And it was a chore to get up and go to the bathroom, to walk, to get up there and go. And then after that, things started to get better. But there was still some deconditioning in my lungs and things. I couldn't walk 100 yards if I wanted to there shortly after that 4-day period.
Right.
So it took a solid 2 weeks for me to get back to baseline.
Okay.
It took a solid 2 weeks from the first, cough to I'm okay now.
Right. And
Solid
you're a
2
pretty healthy guy, too.
Very
So,
healthy, yeah.
Well, and that's another reason that I do think that there was some kind of government action in Hong Kong, is because, like you said, it was basically a perfect virus.
Mhm.
And it solely attacks, or I wouldn't say solely, but it attacks your respiratory system so hard. And in China, everyone has bad respiratory system because they all smoke. They all start smoking like
And
15
smog
and
is
never.
pretty bad
Yeah.
there.
yeah,
And
smog, yeah.
that's what I mean. They've got terrible pollution over there. So and that's another reason that I think that they did have a hand on unleashing it on their own people. But that was just a side note.
I would just
didn't
love
think
to
about.
know the real numbers out of China, not the ones that they've released. That's the biggest thing that
Well,
I find, I'm having a hard time with, because their numbers are minuscule.
There's no way. They've got billions.
Yeah, I'd love to
Billions
know
of
the
people
real
over
number,
there.
the real number behind their cases and deaths. 'Cause
Yeah.
we don't have it.
Yeah,
Well,
absolutely
you
not.
never will.
Yeah,
And I saw a article that they were talking about if China would have been truthful with not only the U.S. but with the world, this thing could have been like 90% contained.
oh yeah, we could have stopped it because we would
Yeah.
have stopped travel in very,
Yeah.
very quickly. But the numbers they released was like, this isn't really that bad.
Yeah.
And then when it hit Italy, it was like, this is pretty bad.
Yeah, and
You
it's,
know?
by then it was too late.
They talk about the federal government didn't handle this situation well. I don't think anybody was prepared to handle this situation.
There's no world government that can prepare for something
Yeah.
like this, because this is unprecedented in our lifetimes. The only thing you have to even compare it to is the 1918 Spanish
Yeah.
flu.
And I think if we weren't lied to, we actually could have been prepared for it.
Yeah.
But what can you do when you have a country who is, just flat out, you see, they know what the numbers are. Obviously we're never going to see them, but they knew what was going to happen. They knew how bad it was, and then you just flat out don't. I think there's got to be some kind of repercussion for what they did, because they literally caused all of this.
I firmly believe that they knew how bad it was, and
Yeah.
they waited way too long to let us know.
Why do you think they did hide their numbers, or what was their purpose be behind that?
That's communism government.
Yeah.
They're
I was
not
gonna say,
going
it's-
to ever look weak
Okay.
in front
Yeah.
of their people. They're not ever going to admit to mistake.
Right.
They're not going to let the rest of the world view them as weak.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, that makes sense.
So you're gonna lie. If you look at North Korea, they do nothing but lie.
Yeah, absolutely.
To their people, like, we're doing great. Eat some more potatoes, because that's all we got for dinner tonight. But
Yeah, right. Exactly.
On the other hand, they're most likely mass murdering people who get coronavirus.
yeah, it's very possible. There's people walking,
Yeah.
guns in the streets, and they're probably mass graves, things of that nature, all over China, where they're just putting people in holes. So
There's been actually recently a video that surfaced out of China, and it's a wonder that it actually got out, because it's extremely hard to leak. China, for those of you who don't know, anything you do on your cell phone, any video you take, anything you do, if you get on the internet, there's somebody who they might not be watching, but it's going through an algorithm and it's getting checked, everything you do. And so this video getting out is extremely miraculous. And
Right.
there was a video that can't really be explained. But there was hundreds of people lined up in this just group, and they were just taking no explanation for what they were doing, but they were taking them and putting on buses and shipping them somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
So Chinese government has not come out and commented on it.
Probably not going to.
Not yet, definitely not going to. But where are these people going? And that
Who
could be part of the reason why we're not hearing any real numbers out of this, because it's been such a large death toll in China, and they're just loading them on buses and you never see these people again.
Mm-hmm.
Their family never sees them again, because I highly doubt they come and alert them, hey, we're coming to get you, because then
You'll
you're gonna
run.
Mm-hmm.
You're a flight risk.
Call them and
And
Frank.
Frank.
So they're gonna be in the attic, boy. But it was just, there was no explanation. This was just someone videoing from looks like a building that they were in. Hundreds of people lined up, just getting put on buses. Why? It wasn't explained. The video caption was just, y'all need to look at this. And that's kind of my fear now, is that if we don't, this virus has been so politicized that we just really need to stay on our P's and Q's about what we let happen. And obviously we don't want to keep spreading it.
Right.
But we also don't want them to say, hey, here's a mandatory app that you have to put on your phone, that we're not going to force you to get this vaccine, but you have to get this app, and you have to fill out the information on this app that tells other people who also have the app if they've come in contact with you. That's how they get in. That's how they start just inching their way in more and more into your lives. And I think that's something that, yes, this virus has made a bunch of people fearful, it's made a bunch of people cautious. But people who give up a little bit of liberty for a little bit of safety don't deserve either. And so we just need to be really, really cautious, number one, about how we go out in our daily lives, that you don't go see old Meemaw and get her sick. But we also have to make sure that we keep our fear on a certain level and keep a level head and just make good decisions, but also don't let the government overstep their bounds.
Yeah. Like I said, government overstepping their bounds, they always overstep
Yeah.
their bounds. They've been doing it since government was created.
Yeah.
And they're always going to test the fence, I like to say. They're gonna hit the fence and see what they can get away with.
Yeah.
And in times like this, a re-election year, they try to make, one party trying to make the candidate look better while making the other one look worse. You're going to have, I'd like to see if this was a thing 2 years ago, how politicized, what the media would have done with this.
If I see a vaccine come out in the beginning of December, I'm freaking done,
Yeah.
dude. That'll be point blank. I know for a fact this is why it was pushed.
Yeah. It's big time political. To play politics with American
something-
lives like this is to me disgusting.
Yeah.
What the media has done with this, pushing their agenda is disgusting. It's a slap in the faces of the people that watch their programs.
Also
Trying to
the
put
people,
a political spin on a real issue.
Also, the people who, like yourself, you're a traveling nurse. You go out and you had to be in ground zero of this going on. When you're spinning this and making it something political, they're not helping you guys.
Mm-mm.
There's stuff that we go out and when you saw the coronavirus relief bill,
Mm-hmm.
dude, you don't know how mad it makes me when we have a bill. Yes, the American people needed help. The American people were out of jobs because we were trying to flatten the curve and we were trying to stop this. So the people on the front lines, like the nurses, like the doctors, like the hospitals, who were tirelessly working to get this under control. So yes, a lot of plants, a lot of places of work said, y'all go home, we'll figure it out, put you on unemployment. That's all good and fine. But we have our government who is trying to, number one, help the Americans who were out of work. Number two, also get coronavirus funds and grant money to give these hospitals to help them out. But yet you hold up a bill because you want to add something in it that is totally irrelevant, or you don't like what was added in there to it that is totally irrelevant.
You know,
I think that stuff has got to stop.
there comes a time that even the media and even the political parties need to kind of put differences aside and really be on the same page.
I think we're in a climate where we can't.
And-
they're not going to do that anymore.
And when you're trying to push party agenda
Yeah.
in a bill, well, I'm not going to sign that bill unless we get these, golden doorknobs for our bathrooms.
Yeah.
I don't. That to me is what, I'm anti-politics to begin with, just because it's stuff like that. And this is something that needed to happen. It needed to happen quick, and well, we're not going to do that unless you do this, or you scratch our back. You have to be, fully on the same page for the people. The
It
media
gets to a point where you're not working for the American people.
the
anymore.
media politicizing this when they should have both been on the your Fox and your CNN should have been on the same page with the same pushing the same agendas.
Right.
and giving
and-
the American people information that keeps them safe.
Yeah, and it's just not gonna happen. You got one saying this is a world ender, you got the other one saying this is nothing to worry about, and it pulls people in so many different directions.
Right.
Um,
Coming from somebody who's been tested twice, how accurate do you think these? This is the last question I've got for you. How accurate do you think these drive-through testing centers are, like we have in Lawrence County at Southern Vines? I've drove through and got tested twice. It hurts, dude. It does not feel good. They went up. I did the little nasal one. You lean your head back and they stick a pretty long Q-tip looking thing down there and swab around for a little bit. How accurate do you think our testing is? And there's no question it's better than it was in the beginning, where it took a week or week and a half to come back. Now you get your results, even here in Lawrence County, the small city of Lawrence County, 48 hours.
It's the about 70%.
Okay, that's
I think
pretty
that's
good,
what
though.
I think that's what the last numbers I heard coming out of university, because we were testing on site in the hospital, and we were getting results back in 5 hours. So it's about set. It feels like 70% probably was the number that I heard last of accuracy on having the results. We did a lot of other testing. When you have the chest X-ray, the D-dimer, and the ferritin levels were basically what they were doing. When those all three
Right. You pretty much
showed,
got a positive.
the swab was a moot point.
Yeah. Right.
Then, because if those three things matched,
You knew.
you didn't really need it. But there were still swabs coming back negative on some of these patients.
Right.
But most of them, 70% plus, were coming back positive. It was probably closer to 80, 90 really,
Okay.
when all that stuff really hit. But across the board,
Yeah.
it could be
okay.
and it's going to come down to technique of swabbing. Even people at the swabbing centers may not have been swabbing. What the patient's going to allow you to do, because you do go to the hilt.
Oh
on
yeah,
those swabs.
absolutely.
You go all the way, and you're supposed to leave it there and twirl it.
Yeah,
you're supposed to leave it there for 5 to 10 seconds, and twirl it, then pull it out. And patients sometimes just aren't going to do it. They're going to refuse that. So you just send what you got to send,
Right.
what you have. There are some testing sites where you swab yourself.
That's not gonna
You're
work.
never going to get an accurate test on that. That's probably a 20%
Yeah.
success rate where you're swabbing yourself.
Yeah. No way I could stick that thing down there.
And I know how far I got to go, and I know I would not do that to
Right.
myself.
Absolutely
It's
not.
just an impossibility. You can't do it. It's an impossible thing. So, the accuracy of those tests are not very good at all. And those are going to add to your negative numbers.
Right.
Person still could be positive. So so you're going to have inflation on both sides of numbers. That could be accurate or inaccurate.
One more I've got before we kind of cut out. You've seen, there's been rumors of people that say they went to the hospital, they made an appointment, called ahead, so their names and stuff are already in the system. Is going to be tested. They get there, line too long, they end up going home. Or nurses that have come out anonymously and said they've been testing Q-tips straight out of the sterile bag, putting it directly into something that they ship off to wherever they get tested at, and been getting back positive results without either A, being tested, or without there being anything on the sample stick, whatever you call it. and it's always a weird place when you have people anonymously saying this, because I mean, people can say whatever they want to. I can understand that if it is true that you don't want people finding out, because there is a possibility that you could lose your job. How true do you think those?
I really don't put a lot of faith. They're isolated incidents. I don't put a lot of faith in. I really, without a sample, you're not going to get a result.
Yeah.
We're not a hospital or a lab is not going to call you with the result if there was never a sample. You have to have a sample to get a result. This is how labs work. I personally had the test done twice, and the lab lost my first sample. Well, they didn't, never resulted anything, and never resulted. And I finally called, and I was like, "What's up?" And they're like, "Well, we don't have it." I'm like, "You got it." Because I'm pretty sure I remember doing the thing. It hurt really bad.
Yeah.
And they're like, "Man, it just never made it to us." And I was like, "Okay." So they sent somebody to my hotel to re-swab me, and then they took it back there. So without a something to result, just because your name's in a computer, one, a doctor still has to see you and order the test.
Yeah.
And then 2, the test has to be performed. 3, the lab has to have something to test. So they're not going to release a result without having done something. So I don't put a lot of faith behind that one. Now the nurses that are saying they're putting, sending swabs
That are sterile.
Yeah, that are sterile, coming back positive. One, I don't know a lot of nurses that would do that, because that's considered patient harm. You have sent something on under a patient's name that you did not do the test. That's patient harm. That can cause you your license and cost you your job. So I don't know a lot of people that would do that. But again, without a lot of people coming back and saying, "Hey, this is a true thing." I don't put a lot of faith behind anonymous things.
Right.
The people that are saying, I went and I got a pot. I know how the system works. I highly doubt that happened. So yeah, I don't put a lot of faith behind it. Now, if 1,000 people said it,
Yeah.
then you need to really start looking at it. One person says it, I can't really get behind that. 1 or 2 people saying, "Oh, I got a result and I didn't even go." It's not really how it works. Nurses sending off swabs on patients that they never swabbed the patient, that's patient harm. You lose your license and your job. I really don't see that happening. But could be possible. Machines kick out false positives and false negatives. That's just the nature of. There's always a plus minus.
Yeah.
To have a false positive and a false negative. So is it possible? Yeah, it's possible that a swab has never been done, kicked out a false positive. Just like a machine swab was done, kick out a false negative.
Yeah.
But I highly doubt it.
Right.
Well, it's been extremely
Oh,
informative.
dude, yes.
Yeah,
I'm
this,
so glad.
I know it's-
Greg's one of the smartest people I've had the pleasure to come in contact with. I've known him throughout my teenage years. I always thought he was a really smart guy, and I appreciate him coming on the show and giving us his insight. I learned more in an hour and 10 minutes today than I have watching the news or any of that bull crap. What's really going on, they don't show that kind of stuff on the news. People being loaded into the back of the semi truck.
Mm-hmm.
That's the reality we faced in the beginning of this. And I, for one, appreciate you going up there. Appreciate you leaving your family hours away to go up there and do what people are supposed to do. Help people out. And we really appreciate that.
It's not a problem. That's what I do. That's why I'm in the business. If you're in the business solely for money, you're in the business for the wrong reason.
Right.
Not why I went up there. The money was talked about after because they just needed help.
Right,
and I was
absolutely.
just sitting at the house, not really had anything to do. So I was like, I'll go up there, and then we discussed money. But it's we go where we're needed the most.
Right.
There's been over 600 healthcare workers that have died from COVID. And all this. So when it's battle, we're at war. We're losing people. So it's real, and that's just healthcare workers, 600. So you also got janitors and people that were doing the dietary services. they're dying too. So the number of essential employees that stayed out there, that's what they're not talking about that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you
People are
won't hear that on the news at all.
You know, we're losing some foot soldiers out there.
Well, I mean, I don't know if people realized either. They had a lot of guys that were in like the Army Reserves, National Guard, and stuff. They were sending them to, because I know a guy personally who they were sending them to go clean out nursing homes. I mean, they would just go in there and completely clean it out. So we are running thin on people who. There's so much going on. We don't have enough people to actually do the job that needs to be done to keep this at bay.
Yeah, and it is a beast for sure. COVID is a beast, and like I said, when it comes down to it, I really, really hate the fact that it's been so political.
Yeah,
driven,
absolutely.
Politically driven, and you know, because you could have stayed on top of it.
Yeah.
But we can't close the economy anymore either. You know,
No.
I mean, we had to open back up. We were running out of money. That's why it was
And
done.
what's exciting to see is that it's bouncing back the way that it is. So we do know if something like this does happen again, as long as we have the right leadership, there's nothing that, as the American people, I don't believe that we can't handle. So I mean, once we really just need to drop all the political act, and instead of trying to push it, let's focus on getting healthy.
Right.
Let's focus on and I know it's going to be hard, because especially in the times we are, let's focus on uniting, because I mean, you look at whenever World Trade Center got hit and the terrorist attack, it might have only been 3 months, but there was 3 months that everybody in America was solely focused on one thing and solely behind each other. As Americans, it wasn't black, white, Chinese. It was we were Americans, and we're going to take on this task because it happened to all of us.
Yeah.
So this needs to be something where we do come together and we say, look, we're going to put everything aside. With the task at hand right now is keeping each other healthy.
Right.
And then, you know what, if there's something important that we put on the back burner, we'll bring it back after we did this. But I mean, I think this needs to be our sole.
And the only way to get through this will be together. Separated, we're gonna. Divided, we fall. You know,
Right,
we always
absolutely.
will.
How long are you going back for this time?
I'm
A
going
month?
back for a month.
So when you get back, I would love to have you on again to talk again about what your experience is like this time, this
All right.
second time.
That's not a problem.
All
I
right,
appreciate you
it's
guys
good.
having me
Oh,
on the
dude,
show.
I love
Finally
it.
put a face to the name and the voice that comes over PlayStation.
Yeah.
We appreciate you, Greg. Y'all make sure y'all share this. Tell a friend. This is very informative. We need to take this thing seriously. Anyway, make sure y'all subscribe on all platforms. Share, tell a friend. Y'all have a great week. Peace.
Holla.
Bye, guys.
Thanks for tuning into the BMAX Sports Podcast.
40, 1, Lindsay, 25, 20, 50, 10, 5, Lindsay, stop, Lindsay, stop.
We hope you enjoyed today's episode.
I love the show, guys. You're awesome.
Listen, my whole family loves it, man.
I never miss an episode. It's the best.
We'll see you next week.
Go rock this thing, huh? Love you, man. Let's go get it.